The boy does not know what he has found. The man who buried it does. Samuel is 11 years old and has been helping his father clean the office garden every Saturday since he was 8. He knows this garden the way children know places they have been given access to before they understood what access meant. He knows which corner drains slowly after rain. He knows which section of the hedge his father always leaves for last. He knows the old stone wall at the north end of the garden, where the ivy grows thicker than anywhere else, and where the light does not reach until almost noon. He does not know that the corner beside that wall is where someone put something they needed the world to forget. The rake catches on it at 8:14 in the morning. Samuel feels it before he sees it. The particular resistance of metal under soil, different from a root, different from a stone, a flat, hard surface that does not yield the way organic things yield. He looks down, he crouches. He pushes the soil aside with his hands the way his father taught him to move soil when checking drainage, carefully, without disturbing more than necessary. His fingers find the edge of something. He pushes more soil away, a handle, metal, dark with age but solid. Below it, the outline of a door, small and square and set flush with the ground. A safe. Samuel sits back on his heels and looks at it for a moment. He looks at his father at the far end of the garden, working the hedge with his back turned. He looks at the office building rising behind him, its windows catching the morning light. He does not know which window belongs to which office. He does not see the shadow behind the glass on the 3rd floor. He looks back at the safe. Beside the handle, half buried in the soil at the edge of the safe door, something small catches the light. He reaches for it, cold in his palm, a brass key. Small and old, and with the particular worn surface of something that has been handled many times. He turns it over once. There is no marking on it, no number, no name. He closes his fingers around it and puts it in his jacket pocket. Then he begins to cover the safe again. He replaces the soil carefully, the way his father taught him to leave things exactly as he found them. He smooths the surface. He sets the loose stone back over it. He picks up the rake and goes back to the leaves in the center of the garden. His heart is doing something his face does not show. He rakes for 4 minutes without looking back at the corner. Then he looks back once. The corner looks exactly as it did before. The stone, the ivy, the soil, nothing visible. His father straightens up from the hedge and looks across the garden. Samuel is raking leaves. His father nods and goes back to the hedge. What his father does not know is that someone on the 3rd floor of the building behind them watched a small boy crouch at the north corner of the garden for 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and then stand up and put something in his jacket pocket. And that person is already moving away from the window. Richard Voss arrives at the garden at 6 in the morning, not for the Saturday inspection, not because anyone asked him to come. He is there because an 11-year-old boy knocked on the door of his office the previous afternoon and stood in the doorway with his father's work gloves still in his hand and said 5 words that Richard has not been able to stop hearing since. There is a safe outside. Richard had looked at the boy for a long moment. Then he had looked at the boy's father, standing behind him in the hallway with an expression of careful uncertainty. Richard had asked Samuel where. Samuel had told him. Richard had thanked them both and waited until they left before sitting very still at his desk for 40 minutes. He had been finding irregularities in the company accounts for 11 weeks. The garden in the early morning is cold and gray and completely empty. Richard walks directly to the north corner without slowing. He crouches beside the old stone wall the way Samuel described and moves the loose stone and pushes the soil aside with his bare hands. The safe door is there. He sits back and looks at it for a moment. He has been running this company for 28 years, and he has never once known this safe existed. It is not on any building plan. It is not in any maintenance record. It has been set into the ground of this garden at some point in the last 7 years. He will find out later it was exactly 6 years and 4 months ago, by someone who had access to the garden and the time and the reason to do it without being seen. He tries the combination that comes to him first. The date he founded the company. 28 years ago, on a Tuesday in October, the safe opens. Inside are documents, printed and folded and placed in a waterproof sleeve. Richard lifts them out and opens them in the cold morning light. Financial transfer orders, account numbers he does not recognize, amounts that are large enough to matter and small enough to have been moving through the company accounts below the threshold that triggers automatic review. And at the bottom of each document, a signature, his own name, his own signature, except it is not his own signature. He has signed his name 40,000 times in 28 years, and he knows every habit of his own hand, and none of those habits are present in the signature on these documents. Someone has been practicing his name long enough to get very close. Not close enough for him. He sits in the cold garden with the documents in his hands and understands that he is looking at 11 weeks of questions answered in one morning. He begins to reach back into the safe to check if there is anything else inside. His fingers find a second door, small, set into the back wall of the safe, with a lock, a keyhole. He reaches into the safe again and runs his fingers around the edges of the second door, and then sits back and looks at the keyhole for a long time. He does not have a key. He did not find a key. He searches the soil around the safe with both hands for several minutes. Nothing. Richard stands up and looks at the office building behind him. The third-floor windows reflect the pale morning sky back at him without expression. He knows which window is whose. He has known for 28 years. He looks at that specific window for a long time. Then he takes out his phone and makes a call, not to the police, not yet, to Samuel's father. He asks if Samuel is home. He asks if Samuel can come to the office. He does not say why, but the boy who found the safe also found something else. And whatever is behind that second door has been locked for 6 years and 4 months. And the person who locked it is currently sitting in an office on the third floor of a building that still has his name on it. And he does not know yet that an 11-year-old boy has the key in his jacket pocket. Samuel places the brass key on Richard's desk without being asked. He has had it in his jacket pocket for 2 days. He did not know what it opened. He did not know if it mattered. He brought it because his father told him that when you find something that does not belong to you, you return it to whoever it belongs to. And whatever is in that garden belongs to this building, and this building belongs to Richard Voss. Richard looks at the key on the mahogany desk for a long moment. He recognizes it, not from having seen it before, from knowing what it is. A safe key of this particular age and pattern is specific to one manufacturer. A manufacturer his brother Thomas sourced all the office security equipment from 6 years ago when Richard gave him responsibility for the building renovation. Richard had not thought about that renovation in 6 years. He thinks about it now. He picks up the key. He asks Samuel to come with him. In the garden, the morning is cold and clear. Richard crouches at the north corner and opens the safe with his founding date combination. He reaches through the outer compartment to the second door at the back. He puts the brass key in the lock. It opens. Inside the second compartment are 2 items. A small notebook with a dark cover, its pages dense with handwritten columns of numbers and dates and initials. And beneath the notebook, a folded document, a signed agreement between 2 account holders, both signatures present, one of them Richard's forged name, and one of them a name Richard has known his entire life, Thomas Voss. Richard sits in the cold garden soil with the notebook open in his hands. The first entry is dated 6 years and 4 months ago. The most recent entry is dated 9 days ago. In between are 267 entries, small amounts and large amounts and medium amounts, distributed across enough accounts and enough time that the cumulative total only becomes visible when you see all the entries together in one place. The cumulative total is significant. Richard closes the notebook. He stands up and looks at the office building, 3rd floor. The window that belongs to Thomas is dark. It is a Sunday morning. Thomas does not come in on Sundays. Richard calls him anyway. He does not say what he has found. He says there is something at the office that requires Thomas's attention before the week begins. He uses the specific tone that has always meant non-negotiable to his younger brother. Thomas says he will be there in 40 minutes. He arrives in 37. Richard is waiting in his office with the documents on the desk and the notebook open to the first entry and the signed agreement visible at the top of the stack. The brass key is beside the stack on the mahogany surface. Thomas walks in and sees all of it before he has fully closed the door behind him. He does not speak for a long time. Richard does not speak either. The room is completely silent in the particular way rooms are silent when everything that needs to be said has already been placed on the desk. Thomas looks at the brass key last. He looks at it the way a person looks at the thing they should have retrieved and did not. The thing they left because they believed it was small enough and deep enough in the soil to be safe. He looks at it the way a man looks at the distance between what he chose and what it cost. Richard asks him one question. He asks how long he intended to continue. Thomas has no answer. He stands at the door of the office that still bears his brother's name above his own on the building directory and says nothing. Behind Richard, Samuel is sitting in the chair beside the window. He has been there the whole time. Thomas looks at the boy, and the boy looks back at him with the wide, calm eyes of someone who found something in a garden and simply returned it to the person it belonged to. Two men come in through the office door behind Thomas a few minutes later. Richard made those calls before Thomas arrived. Thomas leaves the office between them. Richard sits at his desk for a long time after. Then he looks at the brass key still on the mahogany surface. Then he looks at Samuel. He asks the boy what made him decide to cover the safe back up before telling anyone. Samuel thinks about it for a moment. Then he says his father always told him that when you find something important, you do not leave it open where anyone can see it. You cover it and you go to the right person. Richard nods slowly. He puts the brass key in the drawer of his desk. The most dangerous man in any room is not the one who takes. It is the one who takes slowly enough that no one notices, until a child finds the proof in a garden.